Hi guys, welcome to episode 6 of Sports Star Extras IPL special. And today we are going to talk a little maybe off the field, not fully on the field, but then maybe a balance of bit on and off the field. We have with us Paddy Upton, coach, SNC coach, mind game guru. I don't know what to call Paddy because Paddy has been through all of it and he's still doing great in his own right. And he's been a coach in the IPL for many years. He's been with the Indian team. He's been with the South African team. Thank you so much, Paddy, for joining us. And it's a pleasure to chat with you. Both of us are really honored that you found some time for us to have this little chat on IPL. Before we move on to the deeper things involved in cricket, we would want to know from you that this is a very different IPL. I mean, it's not happening in India, that's one. And secondly, it's going to be behind closed doors as we hear. So, how would you, talk to the boys in this kind of a situation? Had you been a part of the team in this season, what would have been your message to the boys? How would they approach this IPL? What do you think?
So, thanks very much for having me on your show. Really good to be here. This, like all of us in the last couple of months, have been through really unprecedented times, and we've all had fundamentally different experiences with different challenges and different needs. Now, I would bring that same thinking, that just human to human thinking, to an IPL team, recognizing that each person has had very different experiences at home with their families, with the lockdown, which would have brought up some things really worked for players, and there were some real big challenges. And that I would, rather than tell players anything, I would have a very honest conversation to say, well, let's talk about what you've experienced, and let's make sure that as we go through this 3 months of bio bubble, it's going to kick up some brand new experiences that none of us have had. Just like each one of us here, each one of the listeners, we've been through 4 or 5 months of brand new experiences. And what's important, there's a platform to be able to share the difficulties and draw on each other's support to be able to navigate our way through this really bizarre and unprecedented experience they're about to go through.
Right. I'll move on to my colleague Shayan. He had a question about your handling of your man management skills, basically, and you have handled a crisis which was bigger than this before. So Shayan, over to you.
Yeah, Paddy, so good to see you after a long time. My question is very simple, is that, you have been with Rajasthan Royals for a long time, you and Rahul Dravid. There was a time when, Indian cricket went to a lot of difficulties, and, how challenging was it to manage a team or a pool of players during a time of crisis? Like, there have been bigger crises in IPL in the past, and you people have handled the team very well, So how challenging does it get to manage players in those difficult times?
So, that's a very good question. And the reality is, it's in the difficult times that us as leaders, be it coaches, captains, are really tested. When the team's doing well and everything's plain sailing, it's actually quite easy to coach and lead. But it's in those difficult times that leadership is really tested. And, Rahul and I, we went through the situation where 3 of our players mid-season were arrested for match fixing. It was an incredibly tumultuous time. And what we did there, which I would also do, for example, when a team has lost 4 or 5 games and really is in a bad place, is you have honest human-to-human conversations, honest sharing about what's going on for you, what are you experiencing. First of all, to be able to create that platform to talk, to communicate, to build the trust, to build the collective understanding, and then so together, how do we all move forwards to the place that we all want to be? We all want to do well. We want to move past this. We want to have a good experience, like all families at the moment, like all businesses, and like all IPL teams. And the only way to move forward through really difficult and unprecedented times is to do it together. Yes, you need strong leadership, but there really does need to be a just genuine human-to-human communications, conversations, sharing, and support. And that's what I'd really create, is that culture of really open, genuine connection. We often pay lip service to the concept. We say teams were a family, but the teams aren't really a family. You need to work really hard to actually have that depth of understanding. You've got to fast track the understanding of individuals and the communication. So really, that's what it is. It's about getting people to talk to each other.
Paddy, the lot of talks happening, regarding this bio bubble in the UAE, and how difficult it is going to be for the players, to be, because they are there 1 month before the tournament starts.
Yes.
And perhaps a few of the teams, I'm sure it will go on till the playoffs and the finals, and the people who are there till the end, it's going to be a very long time in the bio bubble. So how does a player handle his mind? Because he might not be, free to have conversations with his teammates as well, because they are only going for a practice and they are coming back to the hotel. And after that, probably they are self-isolating. I don't know what exactly is happening, but there's going to be a fair amount of risk in terms of communicating with others. So how should a player handle his mind while being in this bio bubble?
Okay. So I'm quite sure outside of the initial isolation period, players will be able to all be with each other in the hotel, so they won't be self-isolated in their rooms beyond the first 2-week period. So, it's, again, I keep saying people are going to have different experiences. Your introverts, they're going to be much happier, and generally have been much happier through this, because they don't need to be out there in the world and have the stimulation. Extroverts do need that, and they'll be struggling to find that interaction stimulation they need. Pessimists who look at all can go in the doom and the gloom, and they to problem is they will find fear and mental difficulties, where optimists who can actually look at things and see the glass half full, it'll be an easier mental experience for them to navigate it. And everyone's going to have different experiences, but the key piece is that players are going to be away from their families and away from their friends more so now than ever before. Even people have been to Dubai and the UAE to play cricket, and most people have got friends and family there, or maybe not family, but friends there, but they're not going to be able to see them. Right. So it will be a very lonely, isolated period, and it's going to become so important that there are systems and structures in place to be able to support people and give them that interpersonal connection, and be able to manage players who are inevitably going to struggle. There will be players who find themselves being physically and emotionally depressed. We're going to see depression to some degree or another, and whether it comes out or not, we're not sure. We're going to see real fear and anxiety growing with some players. And I just hope the franchises, the leadership team, teammates, coaching staff are aware that these things are going to happen, and there's an avenue for it to come out and be processed, as opposed to have a player sitting and going through those experiences by themselves in their room. That's not going to be good for overall mental health of each individual.
Right. I'll move over to Shayan again.
Paddy, just taking it from here, recently I'm sure you have known that, Suresh Raina came back citing that he was not too comfortable in the bubble. Yesterday, even Kane Williamson said that I'm a little reserved about how things will work. So do you think that, do these things surprise you, or do you think that these are the things that are going to happen? Because because at the end of the day, these are new things for all of us.
Well, let me answer this. If you said to me, I must go to UAE for 3 months, start off by 2 weeks in self-isolation in a hotel room, and I've already been isolated, we've all isolated at home, and then I must be there for a month pre-season, and then 2 months in the same hotel, only interacting with teammates. I think about that and I'm going, I'm quite happy I'm not going to this IPL this time around. I think I've drawn the long straw here by missing it out. So if I am not going to be that happy and comfortable, I can only imagine that same thing will happen with a number of players. And again, what's important is these fears, these concerns, they need to be alleviated, and hopefully all the teams have already addressed and preempted what are the concerns, what are the fears, what are the problems, what are the challenges, and talk into those and put coping mechanisms in place that players step into it with this not knowing, with this anxiety, but at least with some comfort that there are systems in place and it is going to be okay. And if I'm struggling with something, we will be able to make a plan. But if a player is just coming to this like they would a normal IPL without knowing I'm stepping into a safe, contained, a psychologically safe place, I completely understand the anxieties being there as players are flying in, and if they're arriving with anxiety, that's only going to, there's a more chance that it's going to escalate than be alleviated as they go through 3 months in a bio bubble. So we're in for very interesting times, and I can't reiterate enough that I hope teammates and coaching staff have got their eyes wide open for real unexpected things that are going to happen. And if they got their eyes open and they're looking after players, psychological, emotional well-being as a human being, then most teams will be pretty okay. But teams that only look at it as a player in terms of their performance and their results, and it's just practicing them to get better and hoping and judging them according to their results on the field and not really caring for the human, even more so than the performer, that's going to probably lead to some difficulties and challenges within teams.
Right. Paddy, I'll move on to the action in the middle right now. There are like a lot of exciting players who are going to be playing this IPL for the first time, as well as seasoned players as well. If you have looked at the teams and the combinations, just wanted to know from you, who do you think can make it to the finals? I mean, who are your top two teams in this IPL and why?
Okay, so I'm going to answer that question differently. And we must look at other teams, other sports tournaments that have already come back and see, so what's happening in those, and might similar things happen. Two of the first sort of early sports tournaments to come back was in Australia, the two different rugby disciplines, the AFL, the Football League, and the NRL, the Rugby League. What we saw there was the teams that were neck and neck. Now they've come back, and some teams have pulled so far ahead and other teams have gone so far behind. So those differences are being marked. For those who follow football, we saw the quarterfinals where Barcelona lost 8-2 to Bayern Munich, their worst loss in 80 years. That was predictable, and I see that kind of thing is going to happen as well in the IPL, where you're going to see some teams doing just pulling way ahead and some teams really falling over. And the longer the tournament goes on, teams that are struggling, they're going to accelerate that decline is what I anticipate. In normal times, your decline accelerates the longer you do badly, but this is going to get even worse. And I think we're also going to see a similar thing with individual players who, of similar level of skill, we're just going to see massive differences. And it's not going to boil down to what you and I are looking at on paper at the moment. I would say it's more unpredictable now than ever before, because it's not going to boil down to their skill. It's going to boil down to their mental and emotional state as a result of the bio bubble. And also what is going to come into play is the habits that they've fallen into in the last 4 or 5 months of isolations. Some players have got themselves fit, got themselves healthy. I know some players have been lucky and have had access to indoor facilities, for example, and been hitting balls. They'll be a lot more prepared than other players who haven't been able to play, who've been sitting at home, sitting on the couch, playing PlayStation, not in the gyms and not hitting cricket balls. So the difference we're going to see between teams and individuals has got nothing to do with you and I see on paper. So for me to predict that is really, really difficult. What I do know is some teams have been looking after their players and had regular contact throughout this period. Right. And those teams already set them. Now I know Rajasthan Royals, for example, have done that. So they're already nice and secure. They're in this bio bubble, COVID, lockdown, IPL in a bio bubble conversation. They're arriving knowing to a fair degree what they're in for and what they're going to have to navigate. So I'm not going to stick my neck out and say who's going to come out top, but what I am going to say is we're going to be in for some surprises, how far some teams are going to go ahead, how far some teams are going to fall, and the same with individuals.
That's a very good answer, actually. Thank you so much for that. I'll move on to our last question, which I'll give it to my colleague Shan.
Yeah, Paddy, I will break this question into 2 parts. Firstly, I would like to know that, in your long career as a coach in the IPL, what are your memories? That's number one. And number two, this time it's interesting. Mahendra Singh Dhoni comes into the tournament as a retired player, as an official retired player, but he is, he remains a Thala of Chennai Super Kings. You have had some fantastic moments with MS. If you could share a little, and what do you think will help MS this time, now that he's playing as a free cricketer? He has no one to prove and nothing to prove to anyone. So,
okay, so The memorable moments from IPL, to answer your first question, there's two types of memories that stand out. There's the really good memories of 2013, making the IPL finals in the first season I was coach as a real bunch of underdogs, going unbeaten until the Champions League finals was amazing. Working so closely with someone like Rahul Dravid, who I've just got the highest regard for as a human being as well as a cricketer. It was a real gift to be able to spend 4 years working so intimately with him. And what also stands out is the lowlights, being knocked, needing to win a game, against the Mumbai Indians. I think it was 2015. I might get the year wrong, where, we got 193 and they had to beat us in 14.3 overs, and the tied game, and they hit a 6 off the last ball. That was an absolute gut-wrenching loss, and the pain of that loss lasted way longer than the elation of really good wins. So both stand out, but that is life. It's night and day, winter, summer, win and lose. That's the joy of the journey of sport. And in terms of MS Dhoni, your second question, MS is a professional. He's got incredible pride in performance. He's going to go out onto the field every time, engage in the battle, and do his best. So he's not going to be any less dangerous to opposition and any less of an asset to his team than what he's always been. Number one. With most players, very often they actually play better cricket once they're retired, because the pressure subsides and they're actually to go out, particularly T20 cricket, and just go and freely express themselves, which is a great mindset for T20 cricket. But as we all well know, MS Dhoni has never been one to succumb to pressure. So he's not going to necessarily even be better as a result of the pressure that's off his shoulders. But if he does go out and has a bit more of a smile in his face and play a little bit more with freedom, he might just hurt opposition even more than what he's done before. But having played against him often enough, he inflicts enough damage to the opposition, just being the MS Dhoni. But he's super consistent, and I think we're just going to see exactly that. Consistent performance. He's going to have that great mellow energy, which sets up the platform for the rest of his team to be relaxed and just approach it like another cricket game and enjoy the contest between bat and ball. And that's one of the reasons why they win, is they've got a really great relaxed mindset and approach the game, rather than it's so important to win and create all this pressure that some IPL teams and owners actually place in their players. That just doesn't work. You need the relaxed mindset, and MS along with the coaching staff are great at creating that relaxed environment that frees players up to fully express themselves.
That's awesome. That's all our answers are like so. It has like varied angles and parameters to look into. So thank you so much for your insights, because these are like really we don't get to speak to you every day, so we really value them. Thank you so much, Paddy, for your time.
My pleasure.
That brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you so much, Shayan. Thank you, Paddy, again, and please stay safe and take care of yourself. These are really tough times, and we wish you all the best.
Awesome.